Welcome back. Things to know about homeschool. This is a continuation of a series of things to know about homeschool. If you haven't watched the other videos, there is an overview video of the graphic so that you understand where I'm coming from. There is a video about academics. There's a video about establishing relationships. This video is all about character and attitude with your kids. And before we go too deep, I want you to know that down in the descriptions, you can get a free copy of my book, Homeschooling from the Inside Out. And that's really the focus of that short little book, is all about heart and character of your kids, or attitude and character. So make sure you grab that free copy. So let's talk about character for a second. Character is grit. Character is determination. Character is honesty, integrity, discipline, responsibility, kindness, gentleness, goodness, self-control. Character is the foundation that our kids will stand upon for their entire life. There's a scary statistic that our character is pretty well set by the time we're in kindergarten, because we have been sponges for everything that's going on around us during those formative years. And then we spend the rest of our lives living out as that, whoever it is that we are at 5 or 6. Don't lose heart if your kids are older. With determination and focus, you can work on training up and establishing character within your kids. And it begins by understanding, when you're looking at homeschooling in general, that although I have character and attitude off to the side, they're really part of the core of homeschooling. Because without a focus on character, without a focus on the heart and the attitude, everything else is really, it's fluff. It's like, corn on the cob, that silky stuff that kind of just gets between your teeth. Academics is like that. It's the silk that gets between your teeth. The core of that corn on the cob, the core of our lives, is really our character and our attitude. And it is something that we need to focus on as homeschoolers, because look at this, everything is all connected. Public school kids go to a classroom where what they do is they focus on this stuff all day long. And then they come home to do this kind of stuff. We get it all. We get the art mixed with the math and the science and the relationships and the life skills. We get it all at home. Homeschooling is really parenting with school supplies. And I heard it said once that, well, if you had to choose between you got two 13-year-olds, all things considered, their lives are the same, except one is a twit, is rude, obnoxious, pessimistic, irresponsible, not disciplined, angry, frustrated, unteachable. But they're brilliant. They get straight A's, they ace every test, all this stuff. So do you want that child? Or do you want this child that for whatever reason their academics is lacking? They don't read, they don't write, they can't add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But they're kind, considerate, responsible, diligent, disciplined, trustworthy, responsible, kind. Which student would you rather work with? Which one would you rather have your kids marry? Which one would you rather work for? The kind one. Because if you take both of those kids and you set them in a learning environment, the one that's kind, the one that's disciplined, trustworthy, integrous, responsible, disciplined, all those things, the one that has strong moral character, is teachable, moldable, leadable. Oh, they may question, and they may not just accept all things as they're said, but they're teachable. Versus this one over here is unteachable because they know it all, because they're snarky, because they're obnoxious, because they're unkind and cruel and rude. You want to raise up this kind of a child that is the first one to show up, the last one to leave, the one that if they say they're going to get it done, guess what? You can check it off on the list because it's going to get done. The one that if you trip and fall is not going to laugh at you, but they're going to rush to your aid. Right? You want kids that are hardworking, but you also want your kids to be kind and considerate and loving and serving in a non-slave kind of way. We're not raising up little worker bees to make sure that everything's done at home. We're raising up kids that are going to be welcomed into society and they're going to make a difference, right? They're going to make a splash in society because kids that are kind, responsible, diligent, hardworking, trustworthy, independent, these things, they stick out like sore thumbs. And although that's sad, it's also extremely true. Now, I know that because although my husband and I are not perfect, all 5 of our kids are just like that. When they go somewhere, they leave a wake behind them of kindness and compassion. They're diligent, hardworking, responsible, trustworthy, loving, compassionate, empathetic, serving. They're amazing people. And what we hear back from the people around them is, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so lucky to have kids like that." Well, I have to tell you that you can teach a child to read with discipline and determination, but for the most part, you can also train up a child that has strong character and has a positive attitude with focused attention and detail. Now, this is one of those things in homeschool that can be extremely frustrating because when you read at cat, it's very measurable and it happens relatively quickly, unless you're my youngest son that didn't read till he was 10, but that's okay. He's brilliant and he can totally read and he's amazing. Academics is extremely easy to measure. You either know it or you don't know it. Character's harder to measure and it's slower to cultivate. And so we need to do it purposefully. The way that I always was recommended to me and what we did in our home is that we would observe our children because your kids are going to be different than my kids. So whereas my kids need to learn right now that when the toilet paper roll gets to the end, the responsible thing to do is to take that one off, put on a new one, throw the other one away. Like that's responsible. They should never need to be told that again. You observe your kids and you watch for character issues, integrity, kindness, compassion, responsibility, diligence, punctuality, those things, the character things. You watch for them and you see where your kids are lacking. Because of course they are, unless my kids are the only ones that are lacking in character, which I highly doubt. Your kids are missing something. They need a skill. And so you watch for that, and then you start to exercise those training opportunities where we're going to focus on coming when I call you. So we're going to practice for 5 minutes every day, or we're going to practice cleaning up. I'm going to give you a 2-minute warning. And then when I say it's time to clean up, this is how you respond and this is what you do. We're going to practice when you're discouraged, how you deal with that, or losing graciously and winning humbly, like these types of things. You watch for what your kids are struggling with, and then you set up training and you focus on a character quality until it's mastered. It could be truthfulness, where you set up that maybe the child keeps sneaking into the kitchen and grabbing things that they're not supposed to grab, or sneaking into their siblings' room and touching things that don't belong to them. You set up the training sessions, the role play, where you can practice that scenario, and then you practice the wrong way and the right way. In our house, We used this secret phrase that made all the difference in the world for character training. And it should be, I would recommend that it's your first lesson that you sit your kids down. And it's called the do over. It's as simple as saying the words do over. So, say we are training our kids that when I call them, they are to come to me and say the words, "Yes, mom, I'm coming." They do that for a couple reasons. They're younger than me, so they run to the elder. That's just respectful. They respond, "Yes, mommy, I'm coming," so that I know that they heard me. Okay. So if I call them, "Kids," and they don't come, then I can come to them. I can call them again, "Kids." Now, when they come, I can say, "We need to do that over because you know the respectful thing for you to do is to let me know that you heard me." And the way that you voice that is by saying, "Yes, mommy, I'm coming." And that way I know you heard me, so I don't need to worry that you were carried off by a triceratops. And now I need to go find a search party. Okay, ready? Go back to where you were. I'm going to call you again. We're going to do it over. This is magic. You ask your kids to do something. Maybe it's take out the trash. And they respond with a, you simply say, do over. And they back up. You back up. And then you repeat it. Sweetheart, could you please take out the trash for me? And then they say, of course, because we're a team, right? Do over is key as you're training up character. Now, if you're out in public, we'll close with this thought. If you're out in public and you see that your kids are struggling with something, they are not being kind, they're not sharing, they're not coming when you call them, they're being unkind or whatever the issue is, take note of it and bring that home to train at home. When you're in public, it's almost impossible to train character. Oh, you can practice, you can do the do-over, but it's hard to correct things out in public. So when my kids would go crazy in public, which they would do, we would go home, we would role play and practice, and then I would try to set them up with an opportunity to show me what they know. Character and attitude can be trained. Now, when you're homeschooling, you're probably going to see attitude at some point because your kids are human and hormones will hit them at some point. So even if they're really loving school and at that 5, 6, 7 year old, eventually they're not going to love it so much, or they're going to hit something that's frustrating. So that attitude is everything. Again, you want to set up training opportunities or role playing opportunities of how you deal with a negative attitude. So when something doesn't go the way that you want it to go, when you hit a wall and you can't break through the understanding, or when you try and you fall flat on your face, how do you help your kids get past that? How do they maintain a positive attitude? Well, number one, you make it a standard in your house that you are going to be kind and positive. Oh, it's not always going to be Susie Sunshine because even mommy sometimes has a bad day, but you're going to make it a priority that you will speak kind words, that you will be positive. And when something comes up, you just create a little mini training, usually not in that moment. One time, one of my kids got really frustrated with me. We were shopping for shoes and they didn't have the shoes at the store that they wanted. And they began to have a conniption fit in the store. So I calmly grabbed him by the hand and took him outside. And he responded by throwing himself in a puddle, screaming that I wasn't his mother. I took him by the hand. I walked him around the outside of the mall that we were at. It was very far. Put him in the car, drove him home, put him to bed, let him rest. I didn't speak. I wasn't mad. I was frustrated, but I didn't vent on him. I just took him home, put him to bed, and then when he woke up, we practiced. And then the next day we practiced. And then the next day we practiced. How do you deal when things don't go the way that you want? Because that was not acceptable. So, anyway, attitude, character, they're the core, they're the foundation. You really can't teach your kids when they're scowling, rolling their eyes, slumping their shoulders, huffing in the chair, hiding in hoodies and hats. You you need their attention, you need their heart, and they need to be focused so that they can be teachable, and so that the academic stuff doesn't take all day because there's stuff to do that's way more important usually than that academic piece of the wheel. So anyway, make sure you grab your gift down in the comments or down in the description below, and in the last video, we'll talk about secret sauce. Ready? I will see you in the next video.